Hello, intermediate algebra students. Today we are going to be starting chapter 5. So module 5 starts with talking about another form of linear equation, and we're going to talk about, um, in the future here, we're going to talk about getting this to look like our slope-intercept form, and that's the most useful form we're working with. But there are some nice things with the point-slope form um, that we can do as well. And then we'll just kind of get used to the point-slope form today before we worry about trying to move it back around to be slope-intercept form. So this is what your point-slope form looks like. Couple things to point out. Your m is still your slope. Okay, m is still your slope. That's still your rise over your run. That's still going to be exactly what it was in the slope-intercept form. Okay, your change in y over your change in x. Now these other pieces, so let's first address this y and this x. So we're going to call that your input. So we'll talk a little bit about that with some examples coming up, but for the most part, those are going to stay as y and x. Just like when we had y equals mx plus b, you still had a y and an x in there. So those will mostly stay y and x. When you're presenting an equation of a line, those will stay there as your input values waiting to be used. In word problems, we'll use them then. We'll see that in an equation in the last example. And then this y1 and x1, so the minus y1 and minus x1. So that is a point on your line. So instead of, and if we kind of notice x1, y1, if we kind of notice the fact that this is named point slope form, it's because you have a point built in to this line, to this linear equation, along with the slope. You have your y1, x1, and your m. Just like when slope-intercept form, that's named that because you have your slope and you have your y-intercept. So this x1, y1, that is a point on your line. That's an ordered pair. Now, a couple things to kind of address. First of all, the fact that you're subtracting both of them, it's going to be the opposite values of your point. So that's going to be best explained if we can just look at a couple of examples. So let's look at an example where we need to create an equation with all the information given. So you're going to be given a point on the line, that's that x1, y1, and then you're also given the slope, which is your m value. So if we have to write this in point slope form, you've got your y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, well, if we go ahead and plug these things in, well, your slope, first of all, should be automatic. So that's going to be 4 over 3. Okay, so if we just do that one thing at a time right now, you've still got your y minus y1 equals 4/3 times x minus x1. Now, when we're putting that x1 and that y1 in, here's where we need to be careful, the fact that it's opposites. You're subtracting the x1 and the y1. So your y1, one of the first mistakes we see is the fact that since this y1 is happening first from left to right in the equation, we a lot of times want to put that first value in there. That's not the case. Your y1 has to be the y value from that point. So y minus 4, okay? So I'm going to write this over here on the side, y minus 4. So if you look at it, that looks like a negative 4 because we're conditioned to see the fact that that's a 4 with a minus in front. It's a negative 4, that minus is attached. So that's what's happening when we have the fact that these are opposites of the value. So that's a positive 4. It's going to be in there as y minus 4. And then it's equal to 4/3 times x minus your x1, which is negative 9. So y minus negative 9. Well, that sign flips because it's opposites, and I left it right now as minus a negative so we can actually see that happen. So your y minus 4, that's okay. So y minus 4, because it was a positive, now we're subtracting it, is equal to the slope of 4/3 times x, and then minus a negative 9. minus a negative is plus 9. That is your final equation, and on the questions where they're wanting you to just write the equation in point-slope form from the information given, this is all you need to do, okay? Plug those values in where they belong, just be careful with the signs. So that first mistake is that we mix up the x and the y term because the y comes first in the equation. And then the next mistake we make is we mix up these signs a lot, okay? Since it's a positive 4 in the ordered pair that we were given, negative 9, positive 4, we mix up the fact with it's x plus 9, notice opposite of the sign, and y minus 4, opposite of the sign, because you're subtracting, okay? So let's just see another one real quick. So we'll plug everything in at once. So again, you've got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, your slope, that's automatic. Exactly what your slope is going in for the m, okay? And then your x value in the pair that in the point that's given to you is going in for that x1, and the y value in your ordered pair is going in for the y1. Just be careful that you're now subtracting it, okay? So you're going to end up with y minus negative 9. So we're flipping that sign. So it's going to be y plus 9 is equal to m, exactly your slope, negative 5 over 2, times x, and then minus that x value. In this case, it's just a 10, so it's x minus 10. And that would be your final answer here. You don't need to do anything with it right now. So when they're asking for it in point slope form, that's your point slope form. Okay? So then here, you'll get a couple questions where we're going the other way. They'll give you an equation. You need to tell me the information that's in there. So the slope, again, the slope should be automatic. There should be no extra thinking or work involved. The slope is that number that's sitting in front of those parentheses on the right-hand side. Your slope is exactly that same 1/4. Now the point on the line, this is where we need to be careful, because remember, your x1, y1, two things are happening. First of all, your y1 is on the left side with the y, your x1 is on the right side with the x. So the order that they're presented in the equation from left to right is flipped from the ordered pair. So we get those mixed up order-wise sometimes. And then second of all, we mix up the signs. Because remember, this is y minus y1. So the y1 is the value that's being subtracted. Another way you can think of it, just the opposite of that value. Okay? So your y1 in this case is going to be 5, since it's a negative 5 in the equation. And then when you're looking at this positive 1, it's x plus 1. Your x value in your point is going to be negative 1. Again, it's the opposite of that value, or it's the fact that you're taking x minus negative 1. It's the value that you're subtracting. Okay? So whatever way you want to look at it, your ordered pair for the point is negative 1, 5. And then if we were having you go ahead and graph these, you would be able to graph this by plotting that point and using your slope to find the next one. Okay? So that's that information coming out of the equation. You're going to have a couple problems where you're given a graph and you need to find the equation. Okay? So this has a little bit of a process to it. All right? So again, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, the easiest thing to find is going to be the slope, because that's just your rise over your run. So for rise, for rise over run, we go up 3, and then we go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We went up 3, and then we went to the right 9. So for your slope, change in y over change in x, your change in y was a positive 3. We went up, your change in y was a positive 9. Can you simplify that? Yes, 3 over 9 can be simplified to 1 over 3. So that's your m value. That part's done. Okay? So once that part is done, that's kind of really where most of the work was involved here. Okay? You just had to go find your slope. You weren't given it. Okay? So now for the point, here's where we see a lot of mistakes happening in these equations. You actually have 2 points right now. You have a point right here, which is at -5 on the x-axis, -6 on the y. So that's -5, -6. And then your other point is over here at 4 on the x, -3 on the y. So 4, -3 is that ordered pair. You can use either point to plug in for this y1, x1. Where we end up getting some mistakes is people try to plug both of them in for both y's and both x's, and then you just have a long series of numbers. That's not what you're doing. Remember, the y and the x need to stay there when you're giving me an equation. So it doesn't matter which point you use. Let's use the red one first. So y minus y1. Well, minus y1 would be minus that -6. So y minus -6, or if you just remember you're flipping the sign, it's y plus 6 equals your slope of 1 over 3, and then times x minus x1, and your x in that red point is -5. So x minus -5 will be x plus 5. So that would be one correct answer in this situation. If you used the purple point to make your equation, y minus y1, well, your y1 in the purple case is going to be -3. So minus -3 is y plus 3. Flip the sign. Slope is still 1/3. That doesn't change. And then x minus 4, because that is your x value, is a positive 4 on that point. So those two equations look different, but they're both for the same line. Those are both correct answers. And when we talk about turning these into slope-intercept form, you'll see that both of these simplify out to be the same exact equation when we get y all by itself. But we're not concerned with that today. Both of these would be correct final answers for today. Okay? Now, just to show you where we get a lot of people giving incorrect answers here, is they try to fill in, again, that y and that x with numbers as well. So they'll try to do both the y's, -3 minus -6, so -3 plus 6 equals 1/3 times 4 plus 5, because it'd be minus -5. A lot of people try to give us that with both x's and both y's. They think they have to use all the information given. That's not necessarily the case. This is not going to be a linear equation for this line. That's just a whole bunch of numbers. In order to have a function, you keep that y and that x there. And then the last example, I'm running out of time on the video, so I'm just going to try to, I only have 15 minutes and I'm at 13. So real quick, we're just going to talk about, excuse me, setting this up and then what you would have to do to solve. So you're given a point on this line. It's not on a grid. Some of us might be confused by that. Your x value is 49. Your y value is 2,279.3. So your ordered pair right now, your x is 49. Your y is 2,279.3. So that's the point that you're being given to put into this equation. Much like these examples when you were given that point. Okay? So this is the point you've been given. And if we read the equation, suppose that the weight of an airplane is a linear function of the total amount of fuel. When graph the function gives a slope of 5.7, they're giving you your m. Okay? So this, to begin with, is very much like the first problems on the examples. Y minus your y1, so y minus 2279.3 is equal to 5.7, that's your slope, times x minus 49. That's your equation. And then when they want you to actually take that equation and do something with it, with 49 gallons of fuel, that's right there. It weighs 2279.3, that's right there. What is the weight of the plane with 21 gallons of fuel in the tank? So when they're asking you that question, they want you to use this equation and plug that 21 gallons of fuel in for your x. That's on your x-axis. So all you're going to do is plug 21 in for x, and then you're going to go ahead and solve by just following the order of operations and solving for y. I got 10 seconds left. Hopefully that's enough for that last two problems on your homework. Good luck today. Keep working hard, and we'll keep moving forward with this stuff tomorrow. Have a great day.